He made a fair move. Screaming about it can't help you.
Let him have it. It's not wise to upset a Wookiee.
But, sir, nobody worries about upsetting a droid.
That's because a droid don't pull people's arms out of their sockets when they lose. Wookiees are known to do that.
I've been a little bit confused for quite some time. I've been curious as to why Marvel Comics hasn't tried to kind of dip into this Star Wars fervor that had been going on for The Mandalorian for quite some time now. Obviously, they have the rights to the comic books. They've been putting out Star Wars comics. Why wouldn't there be a Mandalorian comic book, or a young a Baby Yoda comic book, or something with one of the characters associated with that series, which has been so popular? It really ignited the enthusiasm back in the Star Wars fandom after the sequel trilogy. Really was very divisive. It wasn't my favorite. I'd never even watched the last one. I didn't watch the was it The Rise of Skywalker, whatever it is. I've checked out on the movies, but I did check out the Mandalorian series. It's pretty good. A lot of people are very attracted to that series. We're getting a lot of spin-offs and stuff like that in Disney Plus. It feels like, why isn't Marvel Comics getting in on the action? Well, it turns out they are, and I can't imagine a worse possible time for them to announce it. Why would you wait to announce your big Boba Fett event series until the week of the enormous Star Wars Civil War and people calling for boycotts at Disney Plus because Gina Carano was fired from The Mandalorian? Obviously, she was going to be in a new series called, I think it was Troopers of the High Republic. I can't remember the name of it. There it is. Rangers of the High Republic. I guess that one's off the board, although there is some questions of whether or not that was ever actually going to be produced, even though it was presented to their investors. Her firing it caused a lot of outrage. A lot of people are very pissed. It's still trending on social media, and people aren't letting it go. I don't know why this would be the right time for Marvel Comics to announce this. But I will get into the details. I will talk a little bit about the controversy, my thoughts on why this is such terrible timing and pretty much mismanagement. It's what do we call it? Managerial incompetence on Marvel Comics' part of why this announcement would even consider doing this today. But before I do that, I do want to say, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this, thumbs down if you don't. Either way, I want to hear your thoughts on this new Boba Fett comic series. Are you excited, or are you still pissed off at Lucasfilm and Disney? And is that going to trickle down to Marvel Comics? I imagine for a lot of people it will. I think we're going to see people dumping on this for at least the next 48 hours. And you're probably putting a pretty bad taste in people's mouths just as far as associating with the controversy. And I don't imagine it's supposed to be. It's not like this is the Boba Fett that was just revealed to have survived the Sarlacc pit in The Mandalorian. Obviously, in the Star Wars Extended Universe, we already knew that happened. But they finally confirmed it in the new canon, and we got Boba Fett back. But this series isn't going to be that Boba Fett. It is going to be the original trilogy Boba Fett character in between when he took possession of Han's body and delivered to Jabba the Hutt. I'll get to those details shortly. Now, obviously, Boba Fett, I just mentioned they brought him back. He's got his own spin-off series in Disney Plus. I think it's the Book of Boba Fett that's coming out. A lot of people are really excited about this. This feels like it should have been announced 2 or 3 weeks ago. But once they saw the controversy, once they saw how pissed off people were over the Gina Carano fire, and the fact that basically people dumping on Disney and Lucasfilm was trending worldwide on social media, somebody at Marvel has to say, hey, listen, guys, that announcement, we had this earmark for February 15th, February 16th to let people know about this new Boba Fett comic series led by Charles Soule. They've obviously invested heavily in it. They got big-time creators on it. Let's just hold off on this one. Let's hold back for a week or two and see if maybe the controversy dies down, or maybe public sentiment changes, or maybe something big happens. Maybe there's another controversy that happens in the meantime. People are looking that way, then we can release this information, and maybe everyone won't take an enormous dump on the information and the big news that we have that for this comic book that we're hoping sells really well. That did not happen. They've decided to release it this week. Now, in theory, I'm a Star Wars comic book customer. I haven't been completely enamored with most of what Marvel has put out as far as Star Wars comic books. I had really liked the Kieran Gillen Vader series, really liked the Charles Soule Vader series. Those have been the best ones. And the Vader Down story, that was a crossover between Jason Aaron's Star Wars and I think Kieran Gillen's Darth Vader. That's amazing. Like, I would like the big screen, treatment for that, or like a Disney Plus feature length movie for Vader Down. I think that'd be amazing. Don't think we're getting it, but I do think that they are anticipating that this War of Bounty Hunters can be something like that. A big, cool crossover that Marvel Comics creates that's original, so it's their story. Nobody else gets to have the credit. They actually get the credit for writing a cool story like they did with Vader Down. And I think that's what this is meant to be, and that's why they put a creator like Charles Soule, who is, if you don't know this, a big deal in Star Wars comics right now. Not only is he the writer of the flagship Star Wars series at Marvel, but he also wrote one of the big High Republic graphic novels. I think it's Light of the Jedi, something like that. As soon as I saw the covers for the comic books for the High Republic, I checked out on that and realized that wasn't the Star Wars universe for me. But I think it's like him and, is it Claudia Gray? It's another novelist who are kind of up there in big names in Star Wars right now as far as creating new stories, outside of Disney Plus in the movies. They didn't go out and get a cheap artist either. They put Steve McNiven on the series. Big name comic artist. We got a big name comic writer. So I'm pretty sure they've earmarked this series to be big things. They even did a little teaser the other day. Everyone's trying to kill Boba Fett. But this was not the week to release this information. Not if they wanted people to get excited about it, or not if they didn't want the noise to override this signal. Even the people that are excited about this are going to get drowned out by the amount of people that are still pissed off about what's happened. Now, we do have some details. If you're interested in that, I'll get into that. So this is what Charles Soule had to say about the series. And Marvel is calling this the biggest Star Wars story Marvel has told thus far. I'm going to call balderdash on that. Just within the new Marvel, there is that Vader Down story, which was awesome. It's certainly going to be likely better thought of than this Boba Fett series. And then Marvel wrote Star Wars comics for a long time before they went to Dark Horse. They actually told some really, really cool stories, including some really good Boba Fett stuff. So they might be, setting the bar a little bit too high, but you don't want to undersell your comic, but they might be overselling it here. But this is what Charles Soule had to say. Boba Fett clearly doesn't take Han Solo directly to Jabba's palace. Something had to happen in between that intervening time between Empire and Jedi. I will debate Charles Soule on whether or not he would have taken his bounty directly to Jabba the Hutt and, gotten his money for it. He seems like a bounty hunter. That might be big on his list, but that is not what has happened. And Charles Soule continued. And I was like, I would like to tell that story. I would like to tell it about Boba Fett and what happens to him. So this is going to be a 5-part mini story, like event comic. It's going to start out with Bounty Hunters Alpha number 1. I imagine it ends with Bounty Hunters Omega number 1, if Marvel kind of does their normal numbering and stuff. So there should be 3 issues in between. In there, he talks about Ethan Sachs, who's the writer of Bounty Hunter. So it makes sense that maybe 1 issue will be in there. But he also talks about Alyssa Wong. She's the writer of Dr. Aphra. So maybe it's going to cross over between Star Wars Bounty Hunters, Dr. Aphra, and the regular Star Wars series, obviously, that Charles Soule himself is writing. I wonder if McNiven's going to be the artist on all of them, or just the 2 War of Bounty Hunters Alpha and Omega issues. It would suck if he's not, because he has a distinct style. And they don't have the best artist, for the most part, on these Star Wars books. And certainly not really up to Steve McNiven's caliber, in my opinion. We do have some sample art from Steve McNiven. It looks good. It looks better than the stuff Jesus Saez was doing when I was reading the Star Wars series. It was a little bit too photorealistic for me. But, if you wanted to see Han Solo in Carbonite, you're going to get lots of that. We're going to get some familiar characters. If you didn't know this, Boba Fett, I believe, at this point has lost Han Solo's body. And I imagine that's what the War of Bounty Hunters is over. All the bounty hunters are going to come after Boba Fett to get Han Solo's body that's in carbonite to get him over to Jabba's palace so they can collect the bounty themselves. Could be a fun adventure. We've certainly been introduced to a lot of new bounty hunters within the Bounty Hunter series from Ethan Sachs, including some classic ones that we saw in the original trilogy the first time. But these images are definitely leaning heavily in on nostalgia, just as far as the end of The Empire Strikes Back. And this is also, Soule continued talking. He said, it's Jabba the Hutt, it's Black Sun, it's Darth Vader, and a bunch of others, factions and so on, that I think will be really interesting to fans. It's basically Boba Fett by himself against all these people. I think if they announced this 3 weeks ago, people would have been very, very excited. I think maybe if they announced this 3 weeks from now, maybe they would be very, very excited. But at this point, I do think they probably misgauged the market here in releasing this information. I will probably check this out, although I'm not looking forward to diving back into all these Star Wars comics that I already dropped. Charles Soule is a really good comic book writer. I think Greg Pak, he appears to be a one-hit wonder. Alyssa Wong is a no-hit wonder, and Ethan Sachs, I'm still on the fence about him. He's got some really good stuff out there, and he's got some not so good stuff. It appears this is going to be taking place over Darth Vader, Dr. Aphra, and Bounty Hunters, or be the 3 issues. It won't actually be in the Star Wars books, which I find interesting because he set it all up in the Star Wars books. So that's the news today. We've got a Boba Fett comic event series happening. The War of Bounty Hunters coming out. I don't imagine Marvel is going to be thinking this was a good idea come 24, 48 hours. Probably not a good time to release this information, but the series to me does sound exciting. I do like Boba Fett. I do like Bounty Hunters. Star Wars, one of my favorite universes. This isn't a tie-in to the Mandalorian or the new Boba Fett, though. I think that's what people probably are clamoring for. I don't know why they're not going to that time period in that universe. It's completely unexplored. There's so much stuff for them to do. Maybe Lucasfilm was telling them, stay back. This is our playground, and we got a lot of stuff to do. Obviously, they do have the Book of Boba Fett, more season of the Mandalorian coming out. I believe there's going to be some kind of crossover stuff. There was the Rangers of the New Republic. I believe that one's off the board, but it feels like they're definitely going to be playing in that time frame. And you would hope that Marvel Comics would get a crack at it, because it feels like that would probably gain more interest, probably some eyes outside of the comic book industry and comic book readers into their Star Wars universe. Not that I think they wouldn't screw it up royally, but as long as they got Charles Soule kind of at the helm, it should be pretty good. He's definitely one of the better writers in comics. He's a big deal in Star Wars right now. Don't know that the High Republic is going to be a big deal, but there's certainly a lot of speculators interested in the High Republic #1 comic. I don't see that comic doing all that well in the future, but I could be wrong. Hey, I've been wrong about things before. That's the news. Are you guys excited about the War of Bounty Hunters? Or are you still pissed off about Gina Carano? If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.